Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Just give a couple of seconds for the last few people to jump through. My name is Paisley, and I'm the coordinator at Healthy Mind Menu. And Healthy Mind Menu, if you didn't read our little spiel, is a charity looking at mental health in the hospitality. So we're really here to help support the hospitality industry. And today's session is a little bit of education and also a focus around COVID. We know that it's created a lot of stress in the industry. There's been lots of changes up and down, and hospitality's been hit hard. So today's session is really focused on prioritizing your well-being and looking at the aspect of burnout and what that means and how we can manage ourselves, our teammates, and also our venues as well. So you'll notice down the bottom of this Zoom, if you haven't used Zoom before, there is a chat feature. If you just hover down the bottom, there will be time for questions at the end of the session. But if you want to, or if you have a question pop up in real time and you don't want to forget it, just write it straight into the chat. It won't distract us. And then later on, we can sort of capture that as we go. So please do use that feature. One of the benefits is that we do have a pretty small group in here, which means that we actually can have a conversation. And usually one question is shared by everyone, so don't hesitate. This will be recorded, and I will send this out at the end of the session to your email, also with the PowerPoint that will be shared in a minute by Chris Harris. So let me introduce you to Chris Harris. Chris Harris is a committee member on the Healthy Mind Menu charity, and he's also a psychologist with, I think, about 30 years of experience. Am I
right? Yes, I know I don't look it, but yes, 30 years experience of enjoyable work.
Excellent. So we're really fortunate to have him on our team, and also the wealth of knowledge that he brings. So please do ask questions, write things down, and and feel free to participate in any way that you like. So I will hand you over to Chris, and he will take you through the session today.
Cool. And I'm thinking, Paisley, that we're maybe 20 or 30 minutes presenting, and then 10 or 15 minutes going through the questions people put up there. So looking forward to those questions. When Paisley mentioned about 30 years working within the mental health sector, and often people I meet kind of say, wow, how do you do that? Kind of being a psychologist and hearing people's problems all the time. And I kind of set them straight and say, oh, you misunderstand psychology. Maybe the first couple of sessions or times you meet people are kind of, you hear their problems, but the most of my work is actually hearing people's stories and then seeing just what they're capable of. It's pretty awesome. So when Paisley said, 30 years, I'm like, wow, I'm so fortunate. I've had 30 years of not only hearing people's stories, but seeing them move from a position of struggle to, embracing and thriving in life. So, and maybe that's a bit of a lead in, to today, understanding a little bit about burnout and its impact on mental health, and what things that, we can do as individuals. I will touch on some things, workplace related aspects. We also know that we have greater opportunity or chance of making changes with ourselves, often than making changes necessarily within the environment or other people, but it's a bit of a combination of both. Look, for many of you, you probably realise, some of this stuff. 1 in 5 people have a mental health condition, kind of on any given day. It's about 1 in 3 by the time we look across the lifespan. So they're actually, very, very common. The unfortunate part is that within Australia and other kind of reasonably well off first world countries, about 4 out of 10 people who have significant mental health concerns don't access or can't access treatment or support. And that's pretty disappointing. So in those 30 years, I think that's one of the most disappointing aspects, that either things like cost of mental health services or not accessible or not available is kind of not acceptable. And we found that through COVID that there's increased demand, that there seems to be longer wait lists for you or your family to access support. Some of that, though, is about how we acknowledge and talk about things such as burnout, mental health, well-being in the workplace, and much earlier, before it becomes so problematic. And that's kind of the aim of the Healthy Mind menu, is giving people the confidence and skills to have these conversations much earlier. Okay, I'll endeavour to share my screen, and Paisley will let me know if something isn't working, because technical is not the era I was born into. So I'll try and share my screen here, and let's have a look. So Paisley, are we looking good there?
Yeah, we're looking good. It's working.
Okay, super. Terrific, everyone. Like I said, I'll kind of move through this. What I would ask people is as we're kind of going through this, is just to actually jot down a few key elements, and for each of you perhaps to think about a question or a statement as we kind of go through the online support group. This session is around prioritising mental health, preventing burnout. I'm a big believer that if we're going to find solutions to improving mental health and reducing burnout, it's about how we share knowledge. So I look forward to each of you perhaps sharing your experience, perhaps sharing with the other people through a question of what you found helpful as we go along. By no means, strangely enough, do I say I'm kind of an expert in this, and that will cover everything. It's more hopefully that it gives you a couple of ideas that you can take away and hopefully apply within your own life. We'll move past that one. Okay, I think a really important thing to establish from the outset is when I say mental health to people, often the response I get makes me believe they're thinking I'm talking about mental illness, and I'm not. Mental health is actually a good thing, and mental health is like physical health, where we're enjoying life, where we're achieving things, where we feel that we're enjoying the people around us. Life is full of challenges, stresses, struggles, but when we have good mental health, it means that despite those difficulties that kind of come our way, that we're able to contribute and enjoy the better part of our life. And one of the things that we'll get to is when that starts to reduce, that's when we know that we kind of step into mental ill health. So mental health is a good thing. Mental health is also about resilience, and resilience is basically each of us having the resources to navigate some of those difficulties in life which we know will come our way. Relationship difficulties, financial difficulties, might not pass exams, people we love sadly may die, but they come our way, and it's about how to have the resources in order to navigate those. So in my world, we have a bit of a continuum, and I currently work in mining, and wanting to shift people's understanding around how we talk about mental health. So one of the things is, if we're in a healthy position, then we're doing the things that we'd like to. And once we move along that particular continuum, we move into reacting, sense of being injured, and then ill health. So all clinical presentations are actually just an extension of normally occurring emotions, such as sadness or anxiety, and they become more and more intense, so they actually get in the way of our normal functioning, and this is where we call mental ill health. So that's really important, because what we want to do is identify when we're moving from healthy into the yellow zone, and capture that long before we get into the injured or the mental ill health aspect. As we move down that kind of through into the orange and the red, what we would want to do is then put strategies in place to move us back to the yellow and the green. And that's kind of one of our ambitions with the Healthy Mind menu. So what do we mean by burnout? Almost, rather than emotional, physical and mental well-being, it's emotional, physical and mental exhaustion. But burnout is specific to the workplace. So it isn't that we come to work and we may be having difficulties or struggling within our life. Burnout is where there's stress that is specific to the workplace. And usually kind of what we would see is where there's a lack of energy or exhaustion, people are less engaged in work, they have a negative or cynical view of their work, and it's impacting kind of on their productivity and efficacy. The impact of burnout, and I was saying before, is there may be any number of you that have experienced burnout yourselves. Sadly, it's not uncommon, and hence why we're talking about it. It impacts many areas of your life, and I won't go through all of these, but of course, in terms of overall functioning, it impacts your physical well-being, it impacts your emotional well-being, and in that emotional well-being, I think one of the most distressing elements is how it can impact on your own self-doubt and self-worth, that feeling of helplessness, feeling as if you're not doing a good job, when in actual fact, it won't be related necessarily to you, but more of the stresses and the pressures that are happening around you. Behaviourally, like with other stresses, what we'll see is people withdraw, they're isolating. You may notice yourself or staff will miss work more often. They come in late, they leave early. And sadly, with burnout, same as with other mental health conditions, you kind of see increased use of other stimulants such as food, alcohol, and other drugs. So what does it look like? It doesn't look good. It can lead to clinically, impactful levels of anxiety or depression, absenteeism, reduced work performance, engagement, reduced self-esteem, and being isolated, and deteriorating relationship with colleagues. The other unfortunate thing is the large majority of people who go to work actually want to bring their best self to work. That's their desire, and they want to actually have a sense of achievement and that they're adding value to where they work. What happens with burnout is people feel that they're not able to bring their best version to work, and they can internalize that and feel like maybe I'm not the best person for the job, etc., when in actual fact it's more related to the circumstances you find yourself in. What are the causes of burnout? Gallup is a multinational company that is focused on workplace engagement and well-being. There's Gallup surveys that are conducted in order to determine the level of engagement within workplaces, because we know the level of engagement correlates with well-being. If you're more engaged, valued, etc., employees report greater level of well-being. But from the workplace, the top 5 are unfair treatment at work. And that may be where you're kind of not recognised or dismissed in your comments, before we get to behaviours such as intimidating or bullying behaviours. There's unmanageable workloads, and I know when I got involved with the Healthy Mind menu, I was probably ignorant to the challenges and the requirements of people working in hospitality. It's a really challenging profession. And the irony is the profession is geared around providing enjoyment for other people, nurturing, providing food, providing social interaction. And what I found as I kind of looked in was that, wow, we don't look after one another that well within hospitality. Some of that comes with unmanageable or unrealistic workloads. A really important one is unclear communication from managers, where you're unsure of what you've been asked to do or what the deliverables are, and so you're not clear of what your role is. Obviously, lack of manager support is a really big one, and unreasonable time pressures, which seem to come with the territory of hospitality, but is a key area that we would have to have a look at. How do we make time pressures and deliverables less chaotic, less pressured as we go through? So other factors linked to burnout, and these are important because they're going to help us have a look at what do we need to do in order to minimise burnout. So there are situational factors. So our work-personal life balance is an obvious one. Now, many of us will work long hours, me included, and even where I work recently, we've had a very, very busy few months, and I was meeting one of the executives yesterday, and I'm going, "You look tired," and he said, "Oh yeah, haven't managed to get to the gym or out for a run now in 3 months." And I said, that's not good for you, because that's part of the things that you top up. And then he'd let me know today that he just built in 15 minutes of exercise this morning when he got up and felt so much better. Because we can slip to the side, which is work focus, feeling so tired, go home, have a drink, or rather than building in those other things that we have. So often it can be that we're working too much, we're not prioritising relationships, we're not prioritising the things that make us feel good, and things such as poor sleep habits, which I know can come with the territory of hospitality, taking on too many responsibilities, etc. So this comes back to us as individuals to think, okay, how do I balance that? Are there things I can do that can help my sleep? Are there things I can say no to or minimise those responsibilities? Covered some of these in the last slide, the work-related elements. So we know the biggest contributing factors are a lack of recognition at work, unclear job expectations, chaotic work environments, ones where either the manager or the leader doesn't seem to quite know how to guide the staff. And so there's a lot of energy spent moving from task to task, rather than directed towards what the job role is. Monotonous, unchallenging, high-pressure environments all play a part. Okay, I have some of these qualities in the personal characteristics that I've kind of got to manage, navigate in my life, because whether we like it or not, we also have a role within this. It may be some of our own features. So am I a bit perfectionistic? Yes, I am. Have I had to kind of manage that and let things go over the years? Yes, I have. So being aware of some of our own characteristics. The other, though, can be things like, so if you feel that your view of the world is overly pessimistic, including other areas, nothing's going right for me, etc., that's usually a sign that you're not in an optimum space in terms of well-being, and needing to kind of have a look at what does the world kind of look so glum, and what can I do in order to notice some other things, and we'll come to that shortly. A need to be in control may be something for some of you, and reluctance to delegate is not unusual, where we feel like it's easier just for us to do it rather than asking somebody else to get involved. The fourth one here is really important, and it's around where people go and have a safe and respectful work environment, and that's bullying. So environmental factors such as organisational culture, poor procedures, work demands, and lack of leadership are actually the main drivers in bullying. So where you maintain a culture of kind of top-down, being spoken to rather than empowered. The absence of procedures normally means that people get frustrated and are reacting of telling people what to do in an aggressive or unhelpful manner. And the lack of leadership, where somebody's able to help direct, reduce the chaos in the workplace, have clarity of job roles, is probably the biggest one around this. The reason why I put this in is in mining, where I've been for a couple of years, there's been a history of poor behaviour. There's been a history of a culture that has not made the workplace feel safe. And we're now at a point legislatively where that's not okay. And it's about doing the right thing, but also around that every person has the right to turn up to a workplace that is both healthy and provides safety when they turn up. I'm sure hospitality is similar, and irrespective of the industry you work in, we're now talking and have legislations around what's called psychosocial hazards and psychological injury. About maybe 5 years ago, maybe a little more, so there was very little compensation if somebody had a psychological injury from work. So work-related stress, burnout, there was very few pathways and to be recompensed, financially for those injuries. That's changed now, and they're comparable to psychological injuries. Now, why that's a good thing is that businesses have to be aware of the potential of staff developing a psychological injury, and that are there psychological hazards, and has the organisation mitigated the risk factors? In the Code of Practice, which is about industry regulation and safety at work, it indicates that burnout is a hazard, and that all workplaces need to be able to demonstrate actions or reduction of the risk of burnout to people. And this is kind of really, really gives a nice kind of legislative base of which all of us are able to say, I should be able to expect that I enter a healthy and safe workplace through this. So there's a changing landscape. It's not just kind of personal opinion and people having to struggle in silence or feeling like if they speak up, somehow their job prospects are going to be diminished, or that they're seen somehow as disruptive. We actually want more people to have conversations around the hazards, the risk factors, so that we're reducing these, psychological injuries at work. And reducing burnout is one of those. So what do we do around this? And I'm at this point, I'm really keen if people have things that they're doing in their workplace to enhance well-being or to reduce burnout, I'd really be keen for you to share those, and so that me and Paisley can share them with the other people and see what's working in your place. So mental health is a state of well-being, as we said before. It's where you have energy and enjoy going to work. The first thing we need to have a look at is leadership and workplace culture. And what this means is where your organisation prioritises mental health alongside physical health and safety. It also means that within the workplace there's clear evidence to support positive mental health, that there's a recognition that people being well has a positive impact on productivity, job satisfaction, etc. There's mental health education, and the Healthy Mind menu runs a workshop around this. There are many other forms of education and training, mental health first aid being one. The biggest thing around this, though, is actually training leaders or managers. What often happens is that people working at the coalface are sent along to these trainings in education, and the leaders or managers feel that they don't have time. In actual fact, it's the leaders and managers that need the skills, and especially around things like code of practice and educating these leaders and managers, and you may be one of them, to assess for risks of psychological injury or burnout and put supports in place. The other that we know in reducing burnout is stress management programs or resources. Now that can be as simple as an organisation promoting a particular app, a Smiling Mind app, a Headspace app, that it may be building things such as mindfulness or yoga into the workplace, or offering that to staff. The other really big one is opportunities for restoration. And what this means is within the workday, micro breaks. We strongly encourage people in those micro breaks to actually leave an office space or where they can go outside. Reconnecting with nature is phenomenal in terms of improving restoration. It's the impact is far greater than when we're sat in kind of constructed buildings. The other opportunity for restoration is where people have sufficient time between shifts or weekends, and I know in hospitality it's it can be a busy, mad world through there. But it's where you have sufficient time between shifts, enough time to enjoy the things that you like and relationships, etc. And remember, some of these are going to be down to you rather than the organisation itself. Okay, prioritising your own mental health. What we want to do is encourage people to be their own mental health champion. If you're your own mental health champion, then the impact trickles down or transfers across to the people you love and the workplace. In terms of thriving and from a psychotherapeutic point of view, there's generally 7 steps or factors that we want to combine in order to reduce burnout and promote positive mental well-being. The first is positive perspective, to be able to see the good, the opportunity, the possibilities in the future. Now, this also means being realistic. Crappy things happen to us. That's kind of how it is. However, there's a thing called confirmation bias. The phenomena when you buy a new car and you see all of those cars on the road and think, man, they're everywhere. they're not, and nobody's put those cars there. But our brain will actually move or scan for what we tell it to look for, a bit like those cars. So if in your brain you're telling it that life's hard or life's difficult, it will generally skew and scan for all the things that are hard or difficult, or it will scan if we say can't do anything right. That's just what it will notice, and it misses all of the other things. So trying to encourage people to go, okay, what's the good in this? Okay, I have a salary, I'm able to go home, I'm feeling I'm safe here. What possibilities does this, provide is really important. Spirituality is really, really important. And by this, what we mean is that, how you're connected to things perhaps in or outside of work that are meaningful to you. And a lot of those are relationships. There's a requirement for each of you to be proactive, and me as well. What we want to do is, when our actions align with our values, we actually are steadier and have greater strength. When our actions move away from our values, such as if one of our values is to be honest, but we've not being honest with a friend, we experience this internal distress. That's our internal system going, you've acted in a way that doesn't align with what's important to you. So we want to commit to actions that align with your values. So let's say you've said that being healthy is important, but you have to commit to an action then that you will regularly attend yoga. Or if being honest is important and you're feeling undervalued at work, is that you speak up and let the person know. Also want you to commit to actions that challenge you. If we're not engaging in actions that challenge us, then down to the next one is it's not likely that we're growing, and growth and sense of accomplishment and achievement is really important in our mental health. Our brains are wired for capacity. They like achievement. They like a sense that we've accomplished things, and it sets kind of a series of chemicals off that makes us feel good. So you need to be motivated towards your well-being and what it is you're able to put in place. The other is self-knowledge. Some of you may not think so, but you know yourself better than anyone else. Or if you don't, if somebody comes to see me as a psychologist, part of the process is helping a person see their strengths and what tops them up, what works for them, and what things actually move them away from there. So one of the things with self-knowledge, and as we go through having a look at reducing burnout, you have to think, what works for you? What's important to you? What did I used to do that used to make me feel good? What's dropped off in my life, and what can I reintroduce? Or what new things can I learn? We're all hardwired for relationships. So this element, connectedness, is really important. You matter. We all matter. We all have value, and others matter to us as well. Letting other people know that we appreciate them, that we value them, is really important. The last one, and it's often what we'll focus on in therapy, which is what's called psychological flexibility. To understand that your beliefs about the world, how you see the world, you've developed and learnt them over time, but you can actually tweak them and adjust them. What it means, though, is this notion of being present, so knowing what's making you happy or unhappy at a particular time, and then being able to adjust your actions and your thoughts around a particular situation so that you're moving towards a place that makes you feel good. It's an oldie but a goodie, and it's about accepting what you can't change. So often people might come in and kind of say, geez, Chris, I wish it didn't rain today. And I'm like, yeah, but it is. And they go, yeah, I wish it wasn't though. And I'm like, yeah, but it is. Now, we have no control over the rain. If the rain doesn't go, hey, sorry about that, Chris, and all of a sudden stop. So we have to understand that we can't change some things, they're out of our control. Now, what I can do is decide whether I wear a t-shirt, a rain jacket, carry an umbrella. That's within my control. So we want to commit to actions and thoughts that are within our control, and predominantly that's what we call psychological flexibility. In finishing, one of the things you'll see on our website, and we developed a Healthy Mind menu and Healthy Mind pyramid, a little bit like the food groups pyramids or Maslow's hierarchy of need pyramid. Now, what you'll see is, so with burnout, it is work-related specific. There are factors within the workplace that impact within that and workplace culture. But then there are things that we can do that allow us to be well and at our optimum. I won't go through this, but you can go to our website. And for optimum mental health is about balancing your sleep, nutrition, relationships, your physical activity, and also some downtime. And for each of you having a look, thinking, wow, I'm not sleeping well, I'm not eating well, or I don't do too much activity, then that will impact your ability to navigate some of those difficulties that you might be finding in the workplace. On that note, what I'd like to do is I'll stop sharing the screen in a second, and hopefully there's some questions through there. And like I said, or some statements of what you found healthy within your workplace. Therapy and looking after our mental health, it takes a bit of effort. We have to dedicate time to it, but you're worth it. This is your life. It's worth enjoying. It's worth putting things in place that allow you to enjoy that. And if that's not what you're experiencing, for you to say, well, okay, how do I get a better version of myself? We have a website, Facebook. I'm sure many of you looked at that. After this particular session in June, we talk about the importance of trust, both within the workplace and even of trusting within ourselves. And I hope any number of you can join us for that. But for now, Paisley, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yep, we're back on.
I feel a bit better seeing your face. To be honest, for everyone out there, all 15 of you, talking to the slides is perhaps not my preferred element, but it's a way that we're at within COVID and everything else. So how are we going? Any questions or anything there, Paisley?
So I did put a question in the chat box. So guys, feel free to jump in and have a look. The question was, how do you prevent burnout in your workplace for yourself and and for your team? We did have somebody say that they had group meditation sessions for their employees, which I'm seeing is becoming pretty popular. What else do we have? My biggest issue is the negativity of those around me at work. I know I can't change this, but I struggle to block it out, and sometimes it affects my own mental health. Chris, do you have any suggestions? Thanks so much. These sessions have been invaluable for me. Thank you.
Terrific question. And so what you talked about there is a little bit around the culture of that workplace. And I'm not sure of the nature of it. Really what we'd be wanting to do is, if there's a manager or somebody higher up within there, is thinking for them to understand the importance of kind of, looking after staff, kind of giving praise, etc. Whether it's even you having a conversation or saying, have you heard of the Healthy Mind menu? It's to do with Hotels Association link there as well. Because like I said before, if you don't have somebody, a leader or somebody that's not advocating for this, then it's unlikely to change. So I think whether you're in a position to say, have you heard of this, or we've done this course, maybe a few people engaging within that course. The other, being negative takes a lot of energy, and it drains the people around them, sadly. And for yourself, the idea of, and negativity is often kind of looking down and like, ugh, and for yourself, which is may sound simple, but it's kind of going outside and kind of wanting to look up and just remembering, your life is bigger than the workplace that you're in or the negativity of that detail. And we have to kind of top ourselves up through that, knowing that sometimes we're going back into a negative point of view. But I'd be encouraging you to see if you could have a conversation or with one of your shift managers or somebody higher up about what things they can build into the workplace. It's sending the link to Healthy Mind Menu.
Chris, at what point do you think if there's leadership that won't create change and, there's high turnover, a lot of the staff are really unhappy with the work, so, a lot of negative stuff and there's no change happening, at what point do you think an employee should leave that workplace? Or how do you know when enough is enough?
I have some of those conversations in my role, kind of here, and unfortunately, in some of those instances, because my role is not to keep them at work, it's for them to be well. And there are some areas of the business, even though we're evolving it as a workplace wellness company, where the impact on the person or the relationship or their happiness is so great that I can't kind of support them staying within that. But it's usually working with a person where what you lose is relationships, happiness. You're not able to do the things that you previously enjoyed. Now, if that's for a discrete period of time, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 months, where you kind of go, okay, it's difficult. If it's persisting and you notice it's impacting on your well-being, you're not enjoying life, sadly, that's when I have to encourage people to look for alternatives. There are really positive workplaces out there. It's a bit of that, Hazley, a bit of self-knowledge of, and if it helps, talking to somebody that you're close to, or the psychologist, of like figuring out, hang on, have I drifted into mental unwellness here? And if you have, and there isn't any evidence that changes within the workplace, have to go, look at you have to prioritise yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much for answering that. Are there any other questions from the group? Okay, I don't think so. So any other comments, I guess, before we wrap this session up, Chris? Chris, any other comments before we finish the session from yourself?
Look, probably I'm reassured that we're talking about this more around workplace wellbeing, safety, that there's some legislative elements. There are certain industries, and I think hospitality and mining are two, of which behaviours leading to burnout are highly prevalent, and acknowledging that this is not okay anymore. So I'm reassured by that. I also know in both industries, it's some people may feel like, wow, we've got a long way to go. Yep, but we're going there. It's one step at a time. And what I'd encourage people is you're worth it. What is it you can do to look after you and build your strength and resilience? And the greatest thing that we have and is the people around us, the people we love, and people that we're connected to. And so don't lose sight of that. Make sure you are using them as resources. on that note, yeah, use the Healthy Mind menu and Healthy Mind pyramid. I hope you're able to take away maybe one or two useful pieces of information, and I look forward, hopefully in the future, to seeing how you've put some of this in place. Thanks, Paisley.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. So just to wrap that up, guys, I just wanted to say thank you for participating and joining in today, because your participation, you know, adds to creating a healthy culture within hospitality. So the fact that you've shown up today is, you know, is really shining a light for others and those around you as well. Again, as I mentioned at the start, this session is recorded, so you will get a copy of this emailed to you, as well as the PowerPoint notes. I remember hearing once, it was like, if the best way to learn is to teach. So if you can share something that you've learned within 72 hours to somebody in your community, whether it's family, at work, you know, spread the message. It will really consolidate some of these ideas. My name is Paisley and I'm the coordinator. So if you send any emails, you're probably going to send them to me. I really welcome feedback on the sessions. The sessions will continue every month. We have one more session next month as part of this particular series, and then the next series will be released. So if you have any suggestions of things that you'd like us to cover that you feel are important, please do send a return to the email that goes out to you, and we will take that into consideration. So thank you, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, your week, and we will see you next month.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Paisley.
No worries.